Hello everyone, this is Dr. Leili Hatami. Welcome back to the Human Anatomy course, Chapter 4, Part 2, Connective Tissue. Connective tissue is one of our four primary type of tissue in our body, which it composed of the cells and the extracellular matrix. Connective tissue has few cells, but mostly is composed of the extracellular fluid. The fun fact about the connective tissue is that connective tissue is the most diverse and abundant tissue in our body, which we can find the three different form of connective tissue in our body as the connective tissue proper or fibrous tissue, supporting connective tissue like cartilage and bone, and fluid connective tissue, blood. Connective tissue does a bunch of important jobs in our body. First off, it's like the glue that holds everything together, connecting tissues and organs so they stay in place. Connective tissues is also make up your skeleton and giving your body its shape and support. Plus, it's a storage unit for nutrients. As a fat tissue, it can store energy in form of fat. So it can store fat as source of energy. As bone, it can store calcium and phosphorus. And also it's able to carry nutrients because our blood is a connective tissue. So it can carry the nutrients in our blood vessels. Another cool thing connective tissue does is wrap around all your blood vessels and nerves, giving them extra support and protection. Also, because our connective tissue is composed of many immune cells like macrophages, mast cell, and white blood cell, it's fight against the infection. When germs try to invade your body, connective tissue helps fight them off. And also, the connective tissue is like a bodyguard providing physical protection to delicate organs and tissues, keeping them safe from harm. Yeah, connective tissue is pretty awesome. Let's study the connective tissue more. So as we discussed before about the tissue definition, tissue is composed of the cells and extracellular matrix, and cells in the connective tissue always separated by a large amount of non-living extracellular material. One more time, if we want to look at the different form of connective tissue in our body, we can divide it to the connective tissue proper or fibrous tissue, fluid connective tissue, and supporting connective tissue. Under connective tissue proper, we have loose connective tissue, which the fibers create loose open framework, and we have different type of loose connective tissue like areolar tissue, adipose tissue, and reticular tissue. And also in the connective tissue, which the fibers densely packed, we call this as dense connective tissue. And the best form of the dense connective tissue can be dense regular, dense irregular, and elastic connective tissue. The fluid connective tissue we have in our body is blood and lymph, which blood is going to be found in our cardiovascular system, and lymph is related to the lymphatic system. Under category of the supporting connective tissues, we have cartilage and bone, which cartilage is composed of the solid and rubbery matrix, in contrast, the bone has solid and crystalline matrix, and we can divide the cartilage to the hyaline cartilage, elastic cartilage, and fibrocartilage. These three different type of cartilage, and then bone, which we have compact bone and spongy bone. In this chapter, we are going to study this different form of connective tissue and this different type of connective tissue as loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue, blood, cartilage, and bone. Let's take a look at the structural elements of the connective tissue as we divided the structural components of the connective tissue as the cells and the extracellular matrix. The cells are different type of cells. So connective tissue is made up of different type of cells, each with its own job to keep your body healthy and working properly. We can find the macrophage as the big eater cell. It can do the phagocytosis, is one of our immune cells, and then they can fight against the microorganism. There are fibroblasts, which the fibroblasts are the primary cells of the connective tissue. They are responsible to produce the extracellular matrix, which means the fibers and the ground substance found in the extracellular matrix of the connective tissue. And then the lymphocyte, neutrophil, which they are the white blood cells, they're also going to be found in the connective tissue structure. They are immune cells which fighting off infections and keep you healthy. Fat cells also going to be found in connective tissue. These cells store fat for energy. They do the insulation job and also padding. Mast cell is another like immune cells which we can find them in our connective tissue. They're like little alarm system releasing chemicals when there's an injury or infection, so triggering the inflammation and immune responses. What about the extracellular matrix? The extracellular matrix, it means everything going to be found around the cells, which is composed of the ground substance and fibers. Fibers found in the connective tissue can be collagen fiber, elastic fiber, and reticular fiber. And look at this. In the connective tissue, we have capillary, we have blood vessels, we have nerves. So one more time, let's go over the component of connective tissue, or the cells can be found in connective tissue. We have fibroblasts. Don't forget, fibroblasts are the primary cells of the connective tissue which are responsible to produce the extracellular matrix of the connective tissue. For the connective tissue proper, fibroblasts are important. Leukocytes or white blood cell are the immune cells which they're fighting off infections, and they are so important in our immunity. The macrophages, these are like the cleanup crew. They engulf and digest dead cells, debris, foreign invaders to keep the tissues clean through the phagocytosis. Mast cells, they are another type of immune cells we have in our connective tissue, triggering inflammation and immune responses. Adipocytes or fat cells, storing fat for energy, which we can have them in our like areolar connective tissue and also in the fat tissue or adipose tissue. So we have them a lot in the adipose tissue or fat tissue. Erythrocytes or RBC, red blood cells, going to be found in our blood. Also the leukocytes. The osteoblasts are the primary cells for bone connective tissue. as osteo means bone and osteoblasts are the cells forming the extracellular matrix, the organic extracellular matrix for bone. And chondroblasts, do you remember? The chondro means cartilage. So chondroblasts are primary cells of the cartilage, which means the chondroblasts are responsible to produce the extracellular matrix of the cartilage connective tissue. So then let's review the fibroblasts, osteoblasts, chondroblasts. These are the primary cells. Fibroblasts are the primary cells important for our proper connective tissue, like loose and dense connective tissue. These are responsible to produce the extracellular matrix, fibers, and ground substance. Osteoblasts are the primary cells, the important cells for our bone connective tissue, and chondroblasts are the primary cells of the cartilage connective tissue. And as you can see, we have these immune systems, soldiers, leukocytes, macrophages, mast cell. These are going to do the immunity for us or fight against the microorganisms. Okay, next let's look at the extracellular matrix which we mentioned. It's composed of the fibers and ground substance. Fibers can be collagen fiber, reticular fiber, and the elastic fiber. Collagen fibers are tough, thick, strong, like cables made up of collagen proteins. These are the strongest fiber and they give the tissue strength. They resist stretching and provide strength and flexibility. You'll find them in places like tendons, which connect muscle to the bone, ligaments, which connect bone to the bone, and also dermis layer of your skin, which these structures are under lots of pressure and tension. So that's the reason the collagen, it creates them strengths. Reticular fibers, these are like delicate webs made of collagen fibrils, little collagen, coated with glycoprotein. They form a mesh-like network, providing support and structure to the soft organs like the spleen and lymph node. Next is elastic fiber, which these are thinner and more stretchy than collagen fibers, kind of like rubber bands. They allow tissues to stretch and then snap back into shape, providing elasticity. You'll find them in organs like the lungs, skin, arteries, where flexibility is important. Elasticity is all about that ability to bounce back into the place after stretching, like how a rubber band returns to its original shape after being stretched. So that is all about the fibers found in extracellular matrix of the connective tissue. So based on different type of connective tissue, we might have different amount of these fibers or no fibers in this connective tissue. Ground substance. Ground substance in connective tissue is like a gel-like filler, providing a supporting environment for cells and fibers, which is made up of water along with large molecules like protein, the sugar molecules, which they're going to be produced and secreted by the primary cell type of the connective tissue, which we talked about this just now, about the cells like fibroblasts, osteoblasts, chondroblasts responsible to produce the ground substance and the fibers or extracellular matrix for the connective tissue proper, bone, and cartilage. Okay, so then Now, different types of connective tissue have variations in how their ground substance is composed and organized. This means that the gel-like material might be thicker or thinner, depending on whether it's found and what its specific job in that tissue. For example, we do not expect the extracellular matrix or the ground substance of blood and bone should be the same, right? Because blood is a fluid, so the ground substance of the blood mostly is water, and in bone there is no water, zero water in their ground substance. So please make sure you understood that different connective tissue have like variations in the composition and organization of their ground substance, the amount of water they have, and also the amount of the like fibers they have in their extracellular matrix. Okay, now it's time to look at the different type of connective tissue proper. So we divided the connective tissue proper to the loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue. In loose connective tissue, we have areolar connective tissue, adipose tissue or fat tissue, reticular connective tissue, and for dense connective tissue, which they have a very packed fibers, we have dense irregular and dense regular, and also we can add the elastic connective tissue under dense connective tissue. First, the areolar connective tissue. The areolar connective tissue is going to support and bind the tissues. For example, do you remember the epithelial tissue is avascular? It does not have any blood vessel, but those cells need to get their nutrients and they send out their waste products. How they can do that? Because always there is an areolar connective tissue supporting them. So it means one of the important job for areolar connective tissue is support. And also we can find the areolar connective tissue wrapping around the blood vessel, the like muscles, so and also they are going to bind the tissues together. Holding body fluids, defending the body against infection, as we can find many like many immune cells in this type of connective tissue, storing nutrients as fat, as in areolar connective tissue we can have many adipocytes, and also they're able to to remove the waste, as we have many like blood capillary in the areolar connective tissue. And now let's take a look at the connective tissue proper, loose connective tissue, areolar connective tissue under microscope. So as you can see here, the cells are not packed next to each other. The cells can be different. In areolar connective tissue, we have fibroblasts as the primary cells of the areolar connective tissue, which they are able to produce the extracellular matrix, means ground substance and also the fibers. Macrophage is going to be found there. So these are the immune cells fighting against the microorganism, mast cell also, and also some white blood cells. So as you can see, we have many different type of immune cells found in our areolar connective tissue. That was one of the reasons we said the areolar connective tissue can defend the body against the infection. And then, so as you can see, because of this kind of different type of cells found in the areolar connective tissue, they can be involved in our immunity. So as macrophages, phagocytosis, the bacteria, they play important role in fighting against the infection and also in inflammation. And they can wrap and cushion the organs. Where can we find the areolar connective tissue? Just go under the epithelium. you can find the areolar connective tissue, which laminoproperia is the term we are using for areolar connective tissue found under epithelial tissue of the digestive tract and also the respiratory tract organs. Then around the capillary, we can find the areolar connective tissue. But the best example is just under the epithelial tissue, we can find the connective tissue proper. Loose connective tissue, areolar connective tissue. So make sure you know laminoproperia is the areolar connective tissue found under epithelial tissue of mucous membrane in our digestive tract organs, respiratory tract organs, and also urinary tract organs. Next, loose connective tissue is adipose tissue. The adipose tissue is going to store the nutrients, and also it's like lipid, and also is highly vascularized. It means that we can find many blood vessels in the adipose tissue as they need to be able to mobilize the nutrients during metabolism of fat. But where can we find the adipose tissue? Everywhere, mostly found in hypodermis, which the hypodermis is a structure found under the skin, or it's going to be found between the skin and muscle. And also the adipose tissue or fat tissue going to be found like around the heart, lymph nodes, eye, some muscle as like protecting them. The next loose connective tissue is reticular connective tissue, which reticular connective tissue is resemble areolar tissue, but instead of having like collagen fiber or elastic fiber, mostly it has reticular fibers in their extracellular matrix, and they're going to be found making stroma for spleen and lymph nodes, thymus, and also bone marrow. Okay, so adipose tissue, we know it's a type of loose connective tissue. The cells of adipose tissue is called adipocytes or fat cells, which they are going to store the nutrients like lipid. They are highly vascular, as we talked about this, and also going to be found in hypodermis or subcutaneous tissue, the tissue under the skin. And this is the histology image of the adipose tissue. So it's very easy to distinguish adipose tissue as they seem a round, empty cells under the microscope. Actually, the cells going to be filled with a big droplet of lipid, as this big droplet of the lipid is going to push the nucleus to the periphery of the cell. So we can see the nucleus of the cell at the periphery, which is this cell, the fat cell, is going to provide reserve food fuel as it's going to store the fat, the lipid. And we know where we can find the adipose connective tissue in our body: under the skin, in the hypodermis, around the kidney, around the heart, within abdomen, around the eye, and also in breast. Reticular connective tissue is other type of loose connective tissue, which it resembles the areolar tissue, but it only contains reticular fibers in their extracellular matrix, and they're going to be found in stroma of the spleen, lymph node, thymus, and bone marrow. And this is the image of the reticular connective tissue under microscope, which you can see these dark black thick lines or reticular fibers. We can find fibroblasts as their primary cells, and also other immune cells like white blood cells in their connective tissue. Next, let's go over the other type of connective tissue proper, which is dense connective tissue. Dense connective tissue, it contains more collagen fiber than the areolar connective tissue and is divided to two types, irregular and regular. Dense irregular connective tissue, it composed of many packed collagen fibers in different directions. So the reason we call it as dense because of the packed collagen fibers, and the reason we call this as irregular connective tissue because those collagen fibers gonna be found in different direction in a irregular fashion in this type of tissue. We can find dense irregular connective tissue in the dermis layer of the skin around the joint as a capsule because this connective tissue, it gives the strength support to our structure. So in summary, dense irregular connective tissue is important for providing strength, support, and protection to different structures in the body, particularly in areas where tension is applied from multiple directions. Its random arrangement of collagen fibers allows it to withstand forces from diverse angles, making it well suited for its functions in the body. Next, we have dense regular connective tissue. The dense regular connective tissue, we have the collagen fibers parallel to each other. These collagen fibers are arranged in a regular parallel fashion, and also between the collagen fibers, we can find fibroblasts as the primary cells responsible for producing the extracellular matrix components, including the collagen fibers. And then dense regular connective tissue is designed to withstand tension exerted in direction of the fiber orientation, in just one direction. It provides strong support and attachment between the structure. Examples of where dense regular connective tissue is found include tendons, which connect muscles to bone, and ligaments, which connect bones to other bones at joints. So, for example, in tendons, dense regular connective tissue forms strong flexible cords that transmit the force generated by muscle contraction to bones. So, the parallel arrangement of collagen fibers in tendons enables them to resist forces applied along their lengths. Or ligaments are bands of dense regular connective tissue that stabilize and reinforce joints by connecting bones to other bones. They help prevent excessive movement or hyperextension of joints, providing stability and support. The fact about the dense regular connective tissue is that dense regular connective tissue has limited blood supply, which affects its healing capacity. So it means that ligaments, tendons, if they being injured because of low blood vessel or poorly vascularized, they heal slowly. However, when injury occurs, fibroblasts play a crucial role in synthesizing new collagen fibers to repair the damaged tissue. But because of the reduced blood flow to these tissues, they heal very, very slowly. And also, there is no fat cells in the dense regular connective tissue or no defense cells. So they are just specialized for providing strong, flexible support and attachment between structures in the body, enabling movement and maintaining the joint stability. And it is a dense, irregular connective tissue under microscope. So as you can see, these thick, pinkish bundles are collagen fibers. Still, you can find the nuclei of fibroblasts, and it's obvious that the collagen fibers are not parallel to each other. They're going to be found in a irregular fashion inside of this type of tissue. It's important to know that because of their specific function as enabling them to withstand tension exerted in many directions, they're going to be found in dermis of the skin, the deep layer of the skin, and also the submucosa of digestive tract, and then the fibrous capsule around the organs like liver and also around the joints is made of the dense irregular connective tissue. Okay, let's review now. So far, we talked about the connective tissue proper, loose and dense. Under loose connective tissue, we studied areolar connective tissue, adipose tissue, and reticular tissue. And under the dense, we talked about dense regular and dense irregular connective tissue. The elastic connective tissue, which is going to be under the dense connective tissue, it only composed of the elastic fibers. So we have like a compact elastic fibers in this type of connective tissue. Let's go over the fluid connective tissue, blood. We are going to study the blood in detail in the cardiovascular system chapter, but right now let's have a brief overview of the blood. So blood considered as the connective tissue. It is the only tissue in our body. It's a fluid connective tissue. So do you remember we defined cells and extracellular matrix for connective tissue, right? Like for dense and loose connective tissue, the cells can be fibroblasts, macrophages, mast cell, and the extracellular matrix is composed of the ground substance and fibers. But what about the blood? Can we still define cells and extracellular matrix for the blood as the connective tissue? The answer is yes. So we call the cells as formed elements because not all of them are the real cells, and we call the extracellular matrix of the blood as plasma. So the liquid part of the blood which going to be found around the cells is plasma, and then the cells is called formed elements. So we have these three different type of formed elements: erythrocytes or red blood cells, leukocytes, white blood cells, thrombocytes or platelets. They have different shape, different structure, and obviously different functions. The erythrocytes are the cells without nucleus, without organelles. This is going to be filled with hemoglobin, which they are responsible to carry the respiratory gases, especially oxygen. And then leukocytes, which they are the only complete cells or real cells in our blood because they have nucleus, they have organelles, and then these are our immune cells. We have them in different names: neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, monocyte, and lymphocyte, which each have different structure and also different functions. And thrombocytes are the fragments of the cells, the pieces of the cells, are also known as platelets, which they are important for stopping bleeding or blood clot formation. And now let's take a look at the blood under microscope. So as you can see, these are the cells, and between the cells we have the extracellular matrix, which is called plasma. And then you can see the most abundant form elements in our blood is the red blood cell. There is no nucleus. And then we have these cells with nucleus. These are the white blood cells. If the white blood cell is composed of a big round nucleus with a rim of cytoplasm around it, is called lymphocyte. If the white blood cell is composed of the segmented nucleus with a like a purple, light purple color granules in their cytoplasm is called neutrophil. And look at this one, this very tiny fragment is called platelet. Okay, now it's time to go over the supporting connective tissue as we have cartilage and bone. Let's start with the cartilage. Cartilage connective tissue is a tough and flexible connective tissue that resists both compression and tension. It's firm, but it's flexible, which providing structural support while allowing for movement. Cartilage consists of cells and extracellular matrix as it is the connective tissue. So we have to define cells and extracellular matrix for the cartilage. The main cells of the cartilage are called chondrocytes. So we have chondrocytes and chondroblasts. Chondroblasts are the primary cells of the cartilage, which they are responsible to produce the extracellular matrix. And chondrocytes are the cells which they are responsible to maintain the extracellular matrix. Chondrocytes reside in small spaces called lacunae within the matrix. So the lacunae is a house for chondrocyte. Please do not forget. Lacunae is the cavity or space which we can find in the matrix of the cartilage. These spaces provide a protected environment for the chondrocyte to reside and carry out their function, such as like maintaining the extracellular matrix. So inside of the lacunae, inside of these small cavities or spaces, we can find chondrocytes. And chondroblast, as I mentioned, is the primary cell. They are able to produce and secrete the initial components of the extracellular matrix during the cartilage formation and growth. But what is it? The precondyrium. The precondyrium is a dense connective tissue which surrounds the cartilage. It provides mechanical support and also helps supply nutrients to the cartilage through diffusion, since cartilage lacks blood vessel. So please make sure you know there is no blood vessel in cartilage, and also there is no nerve. So it means if you damage your cartilage, you cannot feel it because there is no nerve that can send the signals to the brain. So there is no for the cartilage, no blood vessel, no nerves. So then the precondyrium, it supply the cartilage by diffusion of the nutrients to the cartilage. But what about the extracellular matrix of the cartilage? The extracellular matrix of the cartilage holds about 80% water. So it means it's a kind of gel-like extracellular matrix. We have 3 different types of cartilage in our body: hyaline cartilage, elastic cartilage, and fibrocartilage. So this is the hyaline cartilage under microscope. You can find the purple matrix, which you can also see these white spaces or cavities is a house for chondrocyte. So you can find lacunae and also the chondrocyte. So the hyaline cartilage is the most abundant and weakest cartilage in our body. It's weak because it does not have that much strong collagen fibers. Where we can find the hyaline cartilage in our body, the hyaline cartilage is going to be found between our ribs and sternum, as we call this cartilage as costal cartilages, as costo means ribs. So costal cartilages is the cartilage between ribs and this bone, sternum. So costal cartilages are hyaline cartilage. Just touch your nose, the tip of your nose, and also part of your nasal septum, and the external wall of your nose is formed by hyaline cartilage. In the tracheal wall, we have the hyaline cartilage, which make our trachea, our respiratory tract, always open. The ending of the long bones, we have the hyaline cartilage, and also your skeleton before birth. Most of it was the hyaline cartilage. So we can find many places in our body that are gonna be hyaline cartilage. Next, we have elastic cartilage. So the name of this cartilage is more descriptive. It means that it has many elastic fibers in their extracellular fluid. So you can find the matrix, which we have many elastic fibers. Still, you can find chondrocyte in Lecauni. And their structure is very similar to the hyaline cartilage, but as I mentioned, they have more elastic fibers in their matrix. And then they're maintaining the shape of a structure and also allowing great flexibility. So the best place that we can find the elastic cartilage is the external ear and also the epiglottis, which is the cartilage of the larynx. Next, we have fibrocartilage, which fibrocartilage is the strongest type of cartilage in our body. It's going to be found between the vertebrae at the intervertebral disc, the pubic symphysis, which is the joint between the two right and left hip bones, and also the meniscus of the knee joint are made of the fibrocartilage, a very, very strong cartilage, which gives fibrocartilage strength, the collagen fiber. So you can find the bundle of collagen fibers in their matrix, and still you can see the Lecauni and chondrocyte inside of the Lecauni. Because of these collagen fibers, it gives strength and also ability to absorb the compressive shock to this cartilage. Next, we have the bone connective tissue. Bone tissue provides support and protection for the body's structure. It's incredibly strong and can resist both compression and tension, make it crucial for supporting our body weight and withstanding forces from movement and impact. The bone matrix is composed of organic and inorganic substances. The inorganic substances like calcium salts, it gives like hardness to our bone, and organic substances like collagen fiber, it gives strength to our bone. So that's the reason our bone is so strong and also is so hard. There is no water or zero water in their extracellular matrix. So again, because bone is a connective tissue, we are going to define cells and extracellular matrix or extracellular matrix. So we learned about the extracellular matrix of the bone as it's composed of inorganic and also organic part, gives a hardness and also strength to the bone. But what about the cells? We have osteoblasts, osteocytes, osteoclasts found in the bone connective tissues. Osteoblast is the primary type of tissue of the bone which can produce the extracellular matrix, like the organic part, like the collagen fibers and also the other part of the ground substance. Osteocytes still gonna be found in Lecauni exactly like chondrocyte. Okay, so please remember that osteo means bone. When we have osteocytes means bone cell. Osteocytes going to be found in Lecauni of the bone. If we are talking about the chondrocyte, chondro means cartilage, and chondrocyte going to be found in Lecauni of the bone, the cartilage as connective tissue. As the osteoblasts are forming new bone and new bone matrix. Osteoclasts are destroying the bone matrix. So then these two type of cells in bone tissue, always they are working. One is producing the new bone and another one is destroying the bone matrix. And they should work in balance to each other. So in this way, our bone always gonna be healthy. Periosteum. Do you remember we talked about the perichondrium? Let me go back. The perichondrium is the connective tissue, is a dense connective tissue, is a fibrous connective tissue, which gonna be found around the cartilage. As peri means around, chondro means cartilage. Perichondrium is a fibrous tissue around the cartilage which gonna support, protect, and also supply the cartilage. But what about the periosteum? Again, pre means around, osteo means bone, periosteum is a connective tissue, is a fibrous connective tissue covering the around some bone and protecting and supporting the bone. But do you remember there was no two nodes for cartilage, no for blood vessel and no for nerves, but actually the bone connective tissue is highly vascularized and also it's going to be innervated by many nerves. Then we can divide the bone connective tissue at these two types, spongy and compact bone. Compact bone is dense and hard, forms the outer layer of bones. It provides strength and protection and contains the special structures as called osteons. So we can find osteon. This structure is unique for compact bone, which these are the cylindrical structures containing the bone tissue. And then we have spongy bone, which has a porous structure with a network of bony spicules or trabeculae is found at the ends of long bones and within flat bones, providing support while reducing overall weight. Let's take a look at the compact bone under microscope. So here we have the osteon, this unique structure which only gonna be found in our compact bone. This is a cylindrical structure which containing a concentric layer of bone tissue. At the center of the osteon, you can find the central canal, which inside the central canal, you can find vein, artery, lymph, nerve. So the blood vessels and nerves going to be found here. And also in each bone layer around this central canal, you can find the osteocyte. And don't forget, osteocytes gonna be found in lacunae of the bone. Don't worry about the bone connective tissue because in the skeletal system chapter, we are going over the bone in very detail. Just right now know like a general information about the bone. Okay, so let's finish the connective tissue. And now we are going over the third primary tissues in our body, which is a muscle tissue. Muscle tissue's main job is movement. As muscle tissue is made up of specialized cells called muscle fibers or muscle cells, they are able to contract. This contraction allows muscle to generate force and produce movement. So then, as we know, the tissue means when just cells working together perform a function, we call this as tissue. So in muscle tissue is composed of muscle cells or muscle fibers. The muscle cells, they have elongated shape, and because of these special myofilaments, the actin and myosin filaments, they are able to contract and make movement. In our body, there are three different types of muscle tissue: skeletal muscle tissue, cardiac muscle tissue, and smooth muscle tissue. The skeletal muscle tissue, they are connected to our skeleton, to our bone, like hamstring muscle, biceps muscle. So the muscle via the tendon gonna be connected to the bone and make movement of the like our body. Cardiac muscle tissue, as cardio means heart, so the cardiac muscle tissue gonna be found in wall of the heart. Smooth muscle tissue gonna be found in wall of the hollow organs like stomach, esophagus, trachea. Let's get back to the skeletal muscle tissue and look at some of the features for a skeletal muscle tissue. If you look at them under microscope, they seem like striated, or they are like a you can find like a dark and light bands, so it makes them to look striated. And also the skeletal muscles are so long and they own many nuclei, so these skeletal muscle cells are multinucleated. Because of the specific myofilaments, actin and myosin, they are able to contract, and because of their attachment to the bone, they cause body movement. Cardiac muscle tissue, if you look at them under microscope, these are also striated. But they have just one nucleus in their cytoplasm. So these are mononucleated cells. And the unique feature about the cardiac muscles is that the cells are connected to each other through the special junctions, which is called intercalated discs. So the intercalated disc only going to be found in our cardiac muscle tissue between the cardiac muscle cells, and it shows that these cells are connected to each other. Next, we have a smooth muscle cell or a smooth muscle tissue. The reason we call it as a smooth because there is no striations. The cells are spindle shaped and they have only one nucleus, and they're going to be found in walls of the hollow organs like the stomach, as I mentioned before, esophagus, and they're also called as involuntary muscle because they're not going to be under our own control or our conscious control. Both smooth and cardiac muscle, they are involuntary muscle. Okay, and this is a skeletal muscle tissue under microscope. So as you can see, this skeletal muscle tissue is going to be found connected to our bone, and by contraction, it makes movements of the body. And then here you can see this striated appearance like a dark and light bands. Look at each of these cells, which they are long, and then they are multinucleated, and the nucleus is going to be found under their plasma membrane. So the cells are long, cylindrical, multinucleated, and they have obvious striations. They're going to be under our conscious control, so they make voluntary movement. And then the next muscle tissue is cardiac muscle tissue, that you can see that still you can find this striated appearance, but a little paler than the skeletal muscle tissue. The cells are branched, so still you can find the striation appearance. They are mono or uninucleated, just one cell at their center. And look at this. These are intercalated discs, which shows that there is a connection between the cardiac muscle cells. So we can find the cardiac muscle tissue in wall of the heart. Next, you can find this smooth muscle tissue under microscope. There is no striated appearance, We can find the very kind of short spindle-shaped cells with one nucleus at their center, and this tissue gonna be found in all of the hollow organs. Next, we have the nervous tissue, our other primary tissue, which its job is to fast communication or controlling. Nervous tissue is found in our brain, spinal cord, nerves throughout the body. Actually, we can find the nervous tissue in some all the organs, but these are the primary organs which we can find the nervous tissue. Nervous tissue is composed of two types of cells, two types of completely different cells. Neurons or nerve cells and glial or neuroglial cells. Neurons or nerve cells are exciting cells, which means that they are able to generate the action potential and also conduct the electrical signals to other like cells or structures like other nerve cells, muscle cells, and also gland. Each neuron is composed of three parts: soma, dendrite, and axon. Soma is the cell body of the neuron, which the nucleus and other organelles is going to be found in this part. Dendrite and axons are this extension of the cell, which they're going to carry the signals. And then we have supporting cells or neuroglia, which these are non-neuronal cells. These cells are not able to be excited. They are not able to produce or to create the action potential. They provide support, nourishment, insulation, and protection to neurons. Which we have like different type of glial cells found in our like central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. And again, we are going to study the nervous tissue in detail in the nervous system chapter. Just know this kind of general information about the nervous tissue. And now let's take a look at the nervous tissue under microscope. So as you can see, here we have the neurons, which each neuron has the soma or the cell body, which is the main part of the neuron. It contains the nucleus and other organelles essential for the neuron's function. And these kind of short branched cytoplasmic process is called dendrites, which are receiving the incoming signals from the other neurons or sensory receptors. And then this single long cytoplasmic extension is called axon, which conduct the electrical impulses away from the soma and toward the other neurons, muscles, or glands. And look at these very tiny dark dots going to be found around the neurons. These are the nuclei of neuroglia. And then here you can find the roots to remember for this chapter. For example, the adeno means gland. The blast means germ. So when we have like a chondroblast, fibroblast, osteoblast, it means that these cells are able to produce something. Chondro means cartilage. So when we have like chondroblast, chondrocyte, it means that these cells are related to the cartilage. Or the lacoon means space. So lacunae or lacuna means the space or the cavity, which only going to be found in our cartilage and bone. And then in cartilage, we have chondrocyte within the lacunae, and in bone, we have osteocyte within the lacunae. So if you know these roots is what I'm going to be very helpful for you to remember the definition of each term, like microvilli, fibroblast, pseudostratified, extracellular matrix, and the other one. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this video. Please send me an email if you have any question regarding this chapter.